but Sledgehammer is having a hard time adjusting to life back home.
Isn't there anything the Marine Corps taught you that you can continue at Band with Polly?
They taught me how to kill Japs. I got pretty damn good at it.
He suffers from post-traumatic stress and has horrible nightmares. His father understands what he's going through because he was a medic in World War I. I won't go into all of it, but it's pretty sad. Especially the scene when his dad takes him dove hunting, and he can't do it.
Eugene?
I'm sorry. I can't.
It's all right. You don't have to apologize to me, Eugene. I reckon the dove population's going to be mighty happy this morning.
It's understandable, though. Out of the three main characters of this show, I think Sledgehammer had the worst experiences in war. But his mom can't understand what's wrong with him.
You need to make a plan for the future.
My plan is to do nothing for a while.
The last line of the episode by Sledgehammer's dad is probably the most fitting and important line in the whole series.
The boy is idle, Edward.
He's not a boy.
Well, he's acting like one.
Frank, you have no idea what men like him have been through.
It would have been one thing if he said, "You have no idea what he's been through," but he said, "You have no idea what men like him have been through." To me, I took this line as, don't just remember what Sledgehammer went through, but every character in the whole series. There were tons of characters, and each one went through horrible experiences, so don't forget about them. The last shot shows Sledgehammer holding a flower up to the sun. It's a good ending that says he's going to move on with his life. He's not going to commit suicide, he's going to get through it. And that's the most important thing about surviving war. So overall, I consider The Pacific to be one of the best war movies / series. It's an amazing story, or should I say stories, because all the characters' memoirs bind it all together into one. The writing is great, the directing is amazing, and the acting is outstanding. You couldn't have picked a better cast to portray these historical figures. I love how it all seems totally real, and one thing that it's not is watered down. When it comes to gore and violence, it's as hardcore as it gets. I'd have to say it's the most brutal movie I've ever seen, and that's not counting movies with cartoon violence. The violence is so real, it's hard to watch sometimes. I've heard a lot of directors say things like, "We dumbed down the gore in this movie," but The Pacific doesn't do that at all. They went all the way with it. Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg know how to make a war movie, and The Pacific is one of their bests. Number 3 was The Pacific, so it's quite appropriate to have number 2 be Band of Brothers, right? Yeah, Band of Brothers from 2001, the other HBO 10-part miniseries. It's about the 101st Paratroopers Regiment of Easy Company and their experiences during World War II. From the mist drops in Normandy, through the ice-cold forests of Bastogne, and all the way up to Hitler's lair, Band of Brothers covers so much in so little time. It's probably the most epic movie ever made. It concentrates on so many characters. It develops almost every paratrooper in Easy Company. That's really hard to do. Most movies that have way too many characters aren't very good, but this one did it right. It's impossible to watch through all 10 episodes once and then say that you know every character. I've seen every episode 100 times and I still discover new characters. It's amazing because, of course, it's all a true story. Unlike The Pacific being based on multiple books, Band of Brothers is entirely based on historical author Stephen Ambrose's book of the same name, which he wrote from doing years of research. So all the characters have a definite connection to one another. They all serve in the same regiment, unlike in The Pacific where it keeps jumping back and forth between men who didn't have anything to do with each other. The Pacific only had 3 main characters. Band of Brothers doesn't really have any main characters. Every other episode concentrates on a new one. I guess you could say technically Dick Winters is the main character because he gets the most development, but there's also some episodes where he's just a background character. Well, I better start reviewing these 10 epic episodes or this video will never get done. Starting off with episode 1, Currahee. It's about Easy Company's training as they get ready for the invasion of Europe. Easy Company's commander is Lieutenant, soon-to-be Captain, Herbert Sobel, played by David Schwimmer. Yeah, I know, kind of a bizarre casting, getting that dork from Friends to play the commander, but he's totally believable as a hardcore captain. His role is kind of like Arlie Ermey's role in Full Metal Jacket. He treats the men like crap.
I wouldn't take this rusty piece of shit to war, and I will not take you to war in your condition.
He revokes weekend passes and privileges for the smallest things. At the beginning of this episode, it introduces Lieutenant Dick Winters and his friend Lou Nixon, who everyone loves. This intro shows you that Winters is going to be the focal point of the series, but the episode is about Sobel. Sobel is a rough and tough trainer. His world is black and white. He views the men as incompetent machines rather than people.
You have 13 minutes to get to the top of this mountain if you want to serve in the paratroopers. Are you Silver?
I don't know if it's because he has to train the men, but they never do anything to satisfy him.
We are coming on 23 minutes. That may be good enough for the rest of the 506, but that is not good enough for Easy Company.
There's even a scene when he serves the company a huge feast of spaghetti, then immediately makes them run up the hill.
You're a washout, Private Hoobler.
It's like he just wants to be an asshole. I do think that most of his methods are effective. You have to be tough in the military, but the problem is that he's such a hard-ass all the time, none of the men respect him. If you're going to be a good leader, then your men have to respect you. He's a good trainer, but a bad leader. The men respect Winters, but he's not calling the shots. Yet. One thing that slowly starts to unravel about Sobel is that he's a nervous coward when it comes to combat. When they finally have to jump out of an airplane, Sobel looks like he's about ready to pass out, and then when he reaches the ground, he loses control of his parachute. Once they get to England, they partake in combat exercises. This is just a combat exercise and Sobel is pissing his pants, and he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He keeps screwing everything up, getting the men killed in exercises and getting lost on maneuvers.
3, isn't that the intersection?
No, sir, it's here. You're full grid off.
Now, it's not really a secret that he sucks at combat. And there's one point when the company's comedian George Luz tricks Sobel into thinking that he's Major Horton.
Is there a problem, Captain Sobel? Who said that? Who broke silence?
I think it's Major Horton, sir.
Major Horton? What is he? Did he join us?
I think maybe he's moving between the platoons, sir.
What is the goddamn hold-up, Mr. Sobel?
This scene isn't just funny, it also shows how gullible Sobel is. He wouldn't survive 2 minutes in actual combat. Winters, however, is a great combat leader. Because Sobel is late, he improvises a strategy plan that works. Eventually, Sobel makes some stupid explanation for court-martialing Winters. He obviously did this just because Winters is a better combat leader than him. Once the company gets word that Winters was court-martialed, some of the best men in Easy Company refuse to serve under Sobel's command. Colonel Sink is extremely pissed, but he comes to realize that Sobel is no combat leader.
I'm reassigning you to Chilton Foley.
I'm losing Easy Company?
War effort needs you elsewhere.
So Sobel loses Easy Company. In my opinion, he deserved what he got. And let's face it, Colonel Sink probably saved his life in doing so. Sobel gets replaced by Lieutenant Meehan, who is much more chill. It quickly switches over to Winters as he and his men get ready to drop into Normandy, France, on June 6th. I like how they showed that this was going to be the largest invasion ever, and that they needed to memorize these plans like crazy. The episode ends with Winters loading his men onto the plane when they take off to France. It's a good episode, even though there is absolutely no combat, but like I said in my Pacific review, that's not what war is always about. Episode 2 begins right when the first one ended. When the planes finally get over France, they start taking tremendous AA fire from the Germans and get thrown off course. There's planes getting hit, explosions everywhere, and thousands of paratroopers in the middle of it all. It's a mess. We also see that Lieutenant Meehan gets gunned down before he can jump. This was of course the cause of the famous airborne misdrops in Normandy. When Winters lands, he realizes that he lost all his equipment in the jump, leaving him unarmed. And he also has no idea where he or his men are. He does come across a paratrooper, who obviously was from a completely different company. The two sneak across the unknown territory looking for any paratroopers. Eventually, they link up with a few, like Carwood Lipton, Bill Garnier, and Don Malarkey. By sunrise, they find the company's headquarters. There's a very unusual scene when Malarkey approaches some German prisoners. It shows something that people don't really think about in war.
Top of the morning to you fellows. Enjoying the war? Where are you from, son?
Eugene, Oregon.
Eugene? You gotta be kidding me. I'm from Astoria.
You don't say.
Yeah. What gives? What are you doing in a Kraut uniform?
Volksdeutsche.
Come again?
My family answered the call. All true Aryans should return to the fatherland. Join up in 41.
You're shitting me, right?
You don't think about stuff like that happening. Then Lieutenant Spears shows up with cigarettes for the prisoners. While Malarkey walks away, Spears guns down all the prisoners. Why? Well, it kind of becomes a rumor through the rest of the series why he did it, but I think he's just kind of a psychopath. To me, it shows the whole thing about good and evil fighting on both sides. Because Lieutenant Meehan can't be found, Winters becomes the new commander of Easy Company. From there, they're ordered to take out 4 cannons at Brecourt Manor that are firing at the infantry on Utah Beach. The rest of the episode pretty much concentrates on taking out the cannons. It's a really long battle sequence, but really good. A lot of crazy stuff happens, like Buck Compton and the German racing to reload, Popeye Wynn getting shot through the ass.
I can't believe I fucked up my ass, sir!
Your ass?
Joe Toy having a grenade blow up right next to him and surviving.
One lucky bastard, Joe!
Malarkey running out into no man's land hoping to find a Luger. And Winters taking out all the German 88s. Just like how Winters showed in the first episode, he's a great improviser. When they don't have any way to set off the TNT, he grabs some German stick grenades and shoves them down the barrel. Pretty smart. By the end of the episode, even though the invasion of Normandy didn't go according to plan, most of them made it through the first day. Now, they're finally in the war.
That night I took time to thank God for seeing me through that day of days, and prayed I would make it through D+1. And if somehow I managed to get home again, I promised God and myself that I would find a quiet piece of land someplace and spend the rest of my life in peace.
So now that Winters has been established, the series starts to concentrate on the other men in Easy Company. Episode 3 focuses on a mysterious paratrooper named Blythe. It's kinda weird. We haven't seen him in a previous episode, so who is he? And why does he act so bizarre? Is he crazy? Is he lost? What's this guy's deal? Well, not only does this episode concentrate mainly on Blythe, it has a theme about being shell-shocked. Something happened to Blythe on D-Day, but you don't exactly know what it is. He just says that he missed his drop zone, but something obviously traumatized him. In one main scene, the company has to take out the town of Carentan, which is being held by German paratroopers, or Fallschirmjägers. During the attack, Blythe just sort of stops and shuts down. What happened? Well, he went blind, that's what. It's sort of his mental breakdown. It just makes you wonder, what the hell did this guy see or experience?
You can't see? I think so. I can't see a thing.
Because Blythe is crippled by his shell shock, he feels as though he's a disgrace.
Sir, I didn't want to let anyone down.
But after Winters talks to him, he just kind of snaps out of it and regains his sight. That does happen to people. It's called hysterical blindness, when they see something so horrible that their brain shuts down their eyes.